Professor Brené Brown's research shows that vulnerability fosters good emotional and mental health. It is a sign of courage. We become more resilient and brave when we embrace who we truly are and what we are feeling. The Vulnerable Scientist podcast is a space for scientists to tell their honest and authentic stories. I am your host, Sarah Nyakeri, who happens to be a scientist, informal science communicator, and I help scientists create personal websites. If you want to support this show, go to www.patreon.com/thevulnerable-scientist. You can also follow this podcast on all social media platforms at TV Scientist Pod. There's something you had mentioned about you, the other things that you were doing to sustain yourself through university. Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, so I think for a lot of people actually at the University of the Western Cape, a lot of us actually come from really just previously disadvantaged backgrounds, currently disadvantaged backgrounds. And I think that for a lot of us, fees are it's such a point of contention. Every single year, I remember just dreading registration week because where's the money going to come from? And throughout my undergrad, my parents really, really supported me so much, just financially. And that was even just hard on me because they couldn't really do that, but they made it work. They somehow made it work. And they didn't just do it for me. They did it for my brother and my sister that came after me. But so very quickly I realized like I needed to work, and I needed to find ways to fund my studies myself. And so during undergrad, I was like, look, let's just start working. And I took retail jobs. I did a lot of odd jobs. And so if people just told me, oh, we want you to hand out flyers for a few days, I would do that. If people said, oh, we've got like this data capturing thing for you, it's just 2 days, I would do that. So anything people offered me, I would take. And I did work study at campus eventually. But I think as soon as I hit postgrad, I really went, I don't want to be, that kind of financial burden on my parents as well, who also had a lot of other responsibilities. And I wanted to help and I wanted to, just stand on my own as well. And I there's one thing that I'll always remember, and it still shocks me to this day because I have a problem with asking people for things. So I have a really big problem asking people for help, asking people for anything. Like even if I was sitting in a lecture hall and I needed a pen, I would be like scared to ask you for that, for a pen. So
why is that?
I don't know, right? I really don't know. It's something that's always been like in me. It's just not wanting to ask for help and just wanting to be very independent and stand on my own. And I don't know where that comes from. My parents always told me I was just a very stubborn child. And that's one thing they always say is, you're so stubborn, you're so stubborn. And people always tell me you're so stubborn. And I feel like it maybe also comes from that, from a lot of stubbornness. But yeah, so I find it really difficult to ask people for stuff. But one thing I remember doing, in my honors year, is back then our fees were not too high yet. But I didn't have any financial aid. And I just decided, you know what? Nobody gets anything who doesn't ask. And I went to each and every lecturer's office and I sat there and I told them, I'll clean your dishes for that. When I say dishes, I mean like glassware in the lab. I'll be your lab tech and clean. I'll wash dishware for you for the year, or I'll help you on projects or whatever you need. I'll do that if you can, contribute just something towards my fees. And I did that with everybody. And a lot of people were like, oh, we don't really have any money. And I came to this one lecturer who I had no relationship with, just by the way, absolutely no relationship. I'll never forget her. Her name is Dr. Vanessa Coolidge. Also in my current department. And, she told me, she actually had this sort of like grant holder linked small little bursary. It's not much at all. It was 20,000 Rand, which is like less than $2,000. And she was like, oh, but, I can give you this towards your fees for the year. And that one little bursary actually covered almost all my fees for the year. I did work study and a few odd jobs and I managed to pay that off. And that was my first time going, I really stood on my own this year. And, I actually was able to pump some money back into the house and I felt really good. And so I think since then I just stayed employed. So I did work study or full-time employment, anything.
Sorry, I need to hear this. I need to understand this. You're telling me that you're a person who wasn't easily able to ask for help from someone. What is the thing that made you, like, moved you from this person who doesn't want to ask for help for like the longest, part of their lives, to going to every single place and, especially in the university, and asking for help for anything as long as you can get this thing that you want? People you don't know, people you have no connections to. What is that thing that pushed you to do it?
Actually, thinking back, like now that you're asking it, like within this context, thinking back in a weird way, my fear of failure actually helped me there because I just didn't want to fail. I just didn't want to have to drop out or even just, like put my parents under more pressure than they were under. And I think, yeah, it was just that, like, I don't want to fail. And I think I just had that it was just the fear of failure at that point in time. I was like, I don't want to fail and I really want to do this. And I think at the time, it was such a long shot for me actually even getting into the honors program because at the time they only selected 20 people to do the honors program and they got tons of applications. And so I think it was also just such a long shot for me to have been accepted that I felt like, well, I can't just let it go to waste. But I did. Yeah, I don't know. Something just came over me and I was like, if you don't do this, it could be a very difficult year for you.
Wait, you said you weren't sure if you'll get your honors, you'll be admitted to honors because of your performance in your degree.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you finally got that? Is it a letter that you get to be notified that you've been accepted?
Yeah, it's we got a little letter to say you've been welcomed into the honors program. I mean, I think that was a very good moment because it was such a long shot and I actually hadn't prepared myself for getting in to the program. So I think it came through, I'll never forget this actually. It came through a couple of days before my birthday at the time. It was late in December. I don't know how anybody was even still working because the university is usually closed at that time. Yeah. But it came through like late December and I needed to start the program in January, like a couple of weeks later. And at the time, it's weird because it was also kind of like, it was the only thing that I would have been able to do that year because I didn't apply for anything else. Because I wasn't sure, like, would I be competitive in any other program? And at least I felt like, at least with this university, I've really built some relationships. And at least maybe they know what I'm capable of from those, subjects that I did perform well in and those courses I did do well in. And I just thought that it would probably be my best shot. But I still kind of felt like this was probably not going to happen. And at the time I was actually looking at internships and trying to see, okay, maybe I could do an internship for a while or maybe even volunteer. If I was that desperate, I would volunteer and just, try and get my foot in the door somewhere. But then that came through and it was a big relief. But then it was that whole worry of, but now I need to register in like a month's time or less than a month's time. And yeah, now I've got all the struggles all over again. Where's the registration fee going to come from? Where's the money going to come from? So yeah, but I think I was just very lucky as well because like no matter how bad the situation was, I had awesome parents. Like they were very supportive and like even if they had no clue where the money was going to come from, they were just like, go for it, you do it. We'll figure it out down the way, but like you'll do it. And I actually, looking back, I realized how lucky I was to have that and to always have that. I don't think a lot of people have that, and I think I was very, very lucky to have that.
Sorry, I had cut you off. You were talking about your work study. You're still at the jobs that you were doing.
Oh no, that's fine. So I was just saying, so I did a lot of work study positions. So I think I was a tutor for a while, and I was a lab demonstrator. I did course coordination for a while. So that was like my first full-time job. I was doing course coordination for biodiversity courses in the department, and I lectured for a year. I think I was a maternity cover at the time. I can't remember, but it was like a short-term contract. And then after that, I did an internship. This was all while I was still doing my postgraduate studies, which is also why every degree took me a really long time. So I went and did an internship. I think I did my internship in my last year of my master's. It took me 3 years to do my master's, and it should have taken me 1. But yeah, I did the internship. I went from the internship and I was an administrator for the physics department at UWC.
Wow,
and I worked for an astronomy institute.
Wow.
But I was just an administrator, so I was like, nothing special. So I did admin for them, and yeah, I think with that position, I actually met Nicola Mulder, who's the PI and director for HA Bionet. And we were doing some setting up of workshops, and honestly, I was doing like things like catering, and I was ordering food and doing that type of thing. And I was doing some registrations for the workshop, and I got to know her kind of via that. And I think at one point I had helped her with like a really small event that we were putting together. So that was my first time meeting her. And a while later, I saw a job ad, and it was for this job that I've got now. And I remember thinking at the time I was actually applying for so many jobs, and just getting so many rejections. It was like rejection after rejection, or just nothing at all. You just didn't hear anything. And I was so depressed at the time. And I did something very cheeky, actually, which was I emailed her, and I went, and I didn't actually know at the time that she was the PI of HA Bionet, that she was like, you know, the top dog. I just saw that she was the contact person for the position, and I was like, I'm going to email this lady. And I emailed her, and I went, hi, Professor Mulder. I still remember telling her that I really like the position, and I'm not really sure if I'm 100% qualified for the job. I really was not qualified for the job, but I was like, I wasn't sure if I'm like 100% qualified for the job. I've got, you know, some background in a lot of things that you're wanting. I've got some training background, some teaching experience. So I've got that kind of background. I've got a little bit of lab work experience. You know, I did a bit of genetics. And so, you know, I've got that kind of like genetics background. And I went, but I do not want to put in all of the effort that's required for this job application if there's already a candidate that you have in mind. And I said, I just really don't want to waste my time again. And I mentioned, you know, I've been applying for so many jobs, and it's just, it's really heartbreaking when you put in so much effort and they already actually know who they want to hire, which is often the case with a lot of companies, I guess.
Yeah.
And that was very cheeky of me thinking back. And she actually responded like very quickly and so like politely, and she was like, no, it's an open call. Nobody, you know, we don't have anybody in mind, and if you think you'd be a good fit, then go ahead and apply for the position. And I applied for the position, and like a few weeks later, I got a call that they'd like to interview me, and I went, oh my God, how did this happen? And I remember going for the interview, and it went well, and it didn't go too bad. I thought I was kind of okay. I wasn't great, but I was okay. And I actually didn't get the job.
What?
I didn't get the job.
I was not expecting that.
And so somebody else, who's also really brilliant and who's been my colleague now for the past few years, actually was offered the position, and I'm guessing that they probably really liked me as well, because about, I think, a few weeks went by, and Nikki reaches out to me and she says, you know, I really liked your interview and I liked your CV. I like your background, and I think you might actually be a really good fit for the position, but we can offer you a shorter term contract. And so she said she's not sure if I'd still be interested, because the original contract was a longer term contract. And so that's also what drew me to the position. But I went, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let me just do it. And I think within a couple of weeks I was there. I was at HA Bionet and I was starting. And then I've been there ever since. And so, yeah, it was actually an oddly good fit.
Wait, okay. Sorry, I have questions. I got questions. I always have questions. So, you're saying that you are doing these odd jobs, different kinds of jobs, different things that are not, departments that are not related to your course.
Not at all.
And or being in training positions, being lecturing, right? And
Yeah.
all these small things that you're doing actually prepared you for your current position, right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah. In
didn't
some
know
weird,
that.
like, cosmic way.
And the other thing that I also like about this is you met this lady in a different thing, and you're doing this, you're in science, but you're doing this administrative job where you're doing the event planning, you're calling the food, you're just helping with the planning, and you just by chance happen to help her in something. And it just happens that after getting a lot of rejections, you see this job you're interested in, but deep inside you're like, I'm not sure if I'll be picked, and I don't want to put my effort into this. And you actually say it, knowing very well this is someone who might influence your, you being picked, but you just being honest and confident, just coming out and saying, and being vulnerable and saying, this is what I'm going through, and I'm not even sure that I fit. Like, oh my goodness, it's the honesty, it's the vulnerability, it's the confidence, all waved in, and it's just beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Well, the weird thing is, like, looking back, if anybody else had been on the other side of that email who was not Nikki, I don't think the outcome would have been the same, because in my time working with Bionet, like, she has just amazed me as a boss, but as a leader and also as a woman. She's really amazed me. And I don't think it's very often that you work for people that you also are genuinely inspired by. I think a lot of the time there's that boss figure, and there's that, they are just my boss and they bring, a world of pain into my life. But with Nikki, like, I think she also impacted the way that I look at education and the way that I perceive, different types of people. She really impacted that, because I really looked at how she, interacted with people in HA Bionet, and she is just such a humble person. And one thing that I noticed very early on from her is that everybody knows she's the boss lady.
Yeah.
she's the top person, but I don't think I've ever seen her cut somebody off, like in a very like an aggressive or an animosity like kind of way, or like I've never seen her assert a dominance. She allows us as junior staff to even not argue with her, but go, no, Nikki, I don't agree with that actually, and this is what I think, and she listens. And so I think that was very like I haven't been around a lot of leaders who do that, who really listen to what you have to say and genuinely listen and go, oh, okay, no, I actually agree. And she asks for your opinion all the time. And one thing I really liked about her is she knows everything, but she'll go, oh, no, I don't really know. Maybe you should ask my training coordinator, because, she's been doing this. She knows perfectly well, but she does that to sort of like enhance your confidence, but also, just help you network.
Grow you.
Grow you,
yeah.
And she just has such an interesting way of managing people, which is really that she leaves you alone. She hires, I feel like she hires really good people and trusts you to do what she's hired you to do, and she goes about her day. And so that's why she's also
not
very
looking around and trying to see, have you done this? Have you done
exactly? But I haven't really seen. And I just look at the employees that she has around her, and you just see how everyone is just, they're so eager to please her, but not in like a bad way or like, I just want to suck up to the boss kind of way. In such a genuine, like, oh my word, you are so inspiring, and if you do so much, I want to do so much. And when she talks about, capacity development, you really feel her come from a place of understanding and sincerity. And so when I do training, I always kind of think like, she's so sincere and she wants everybody to succeed. And so I want everybody to succeed. Yeah. And her main goal is to get you to do things that you didn't think that you could do. Her main goal is to take somebody that everybody kind of went, oh no, they're never going to be able to do this, and then get them to do it. And so I kind of started to embody that as well. And I went, you know what, if you can't do it, let's find a way to get you to do it. And so that's kind of translated into the way I do things. But but yeah, it's such a unique environment, I think, to be in, because she's also the kind of boss where you can go, I'm having a really bad mental day and I need like 2 days to just do nothing. And she'll go, oh yeah, sure, no problem.
Oh, wow.
And you don't get that very often. And,
Yeah.
you know, you can go to her and be like, I am a nervous wreck at the moment. I'm just, you know, like, I don't have a reason to not want to be at work, but I just can't focus. And she will tell you, you know, take 2 days. It's fine. Come back fresh. We need you to be able to work. You know, and yeah, I think that makes you want to actually work more. And so I think we all overwork ourselves, but she's never asked us to do that.
Yeah. You're doing it as in genuinely out of, because you love what you do and you love being in the team that you are. I think
exactly.
You're mentioning environment, good working environment, and also passion, sincerity in people, and working with people who don't dog you around and respect you for what and believing in you, you know. Oh my God, I love hearing about good bosses. It's a thing I have. It just makes me happy for no good reason.
Yeah, and I also think that like good bosses will also make future good bosses. So like if I ever become a manager, so if I ever become like, you know, a big boss or a big manager somewhere of some big project, I'm going to remember, you know, the way that she was able to get the job done, but never ever had to be a tyrant, you know. And so I don't think I would ever be like that, because that's not the example that I've had. And I say this about her, but I've actually had a couple of really good bosses in the past, and really people that really became really amazing mentors. And so I think I've also been lucky, but I always tell people, like, there were lots of roads that kind of naturally just came, you know, like lots of paths that just naturally kind of came to me or opened up to me, and I was never closed about it. So, you know, if I, like with the admin job, I took it as an opportunity to learn a little bit more about university administration, about budgeting, about, you know, project management from that kind of perspective. So I looked at it from that perspective. When I did lecturing, I looked at it as a, you know, this is going to develop my ability to speak in front of a crowd and communicate and convey science in a very confident way. And so everything that I did, I kind of took and thought, you know, it might not be the most logical job. Everybody's going, you know, why are you doing this? But if I can learn something from it that enhances my ability to do whatever it is that I'm going to do in the future, then there's nothing wrong with taking that position. And I'm all for, and any honest living is a good living. And so, I mean, I don't think that a bad job exists, but I do think a bad work environment exists, definitely. Yeah.
Wow. I love that you said that. Oh my God. Okay. All right.